Piktochart is a data visualization tool that students can use to combine numbers, icons, different colors, backgrounds to create infographics, posters, or reports. These are a couple of different examples. This is an infographic created with Piktochart. This is another one. This is a classroom procedures poster where up at the top they've got the starting point of how to create a successful coaching plan, and then as the student completes these steps, they work their way down to the bottom of the poster. This is another example of an infographic. This is a student's resume where they've quantified their skill sets and provided visuals to coordinate with those different examples. This is another example of an infographic where they've walked through all of the work hours that they've done, paired with icons to show visually what the numbers represent. To use Piktochart, you need a username and password. I find it also to be easier to use with a mouse versus the touch screens. So once you log in, you'll go over to Create New, and you'll see that there's a couple different options. You can make an infographic. This is a regular presentation, similar to PowerPoint, and then these are printables. So these are the letter size posters that you would make for maybe a handout or a flyer. The infographics tend to be longer by the time they're being done developed. So you choose which one you want to do. I'm going to choose infographic, but the layout for each is very similar and the actions for each is similar. So if you scroll down, you can see that these are different free templates, and there are also a bunch of different examples that you can use. So if you're not really sure what you want your design to look like, you can use these as starting points and just put in your own information over the example information. But I'm going to create a new infographic. So once you arrive at the layout, you'll see that the screen is set up kind of similarly to PowerPoint. It's laid out in a 4:3 ratio, and then over to the left you'll see you've got graphics, uploads, backgrounds, text, and tools. So starting off, they provide you with a text box where you can edit your own information. And then you can add text boxes. And move them around as you're editing them. And you can add color behind it. So if I wanted to change this to orange, the text, that's fine. If I wanted to add graphics, I could come over here. And I've got shapes and lines. So if I wanted to add a star, I can do this, and you can resize the shapes to make it whatever proportion you want it to be. And then you can also change the color. So if I wanted to change this to yellow, I could do that. And just move it up here. All of your editing icons will be up here. I've got lines here. If you wanted to add a break, these are your icons, so they have a pretty good catalog of different icons that you can use, and just use this like Google. So if I wanted to type in microphone, I would have a variety of icons to choose from. So it's a good exercise to work with your students to say which icon would be the most representative of our idea. So here I've got my icon. And if I wanted to change the color, I could change it to purple. The opacity you can play with too, so if you wanted to layer this, you can do that also. There are a bunch of different options that you can do. So usually you work on this one block for a while, and you click on it to select, and that's how you introduce new icons and text. Do a telephone, move this over here. I'm going to add some text to it. going to change the opacity here and put it behind. Let's go down to the next block. So if you go down here, you'll see you've got another square below it. So now I'm going to edit this one. I'm going to delete these by right-clicking. And some of the other options that you can do is incorporate graph. You can do a background. So I'm going to choose graph paper. This is what watermelon would look like. There are more subtle ones, depending on what you want to cover. This is leaf. I'm going to do graph paper just because it's pretty subtle. There are different tools down here, so you can incorporate maps. This is one of the cooler ones because you can search for your country and then you can edit it. I'm going to edit this map. So if my student wanted to point out all the states that he or she had visited, we could do that. So we could go to Montana, change that to red. Arizona, change that to red. And Nebraska, we'll change that to red. So it's kind of neat. And you can change border color too if you wanted to show, like, you know, in history class or something like that, the different territories. And then you can also show borders or not, depending on what you want your outcome to be. You can also show selected states. You can either hide them or not. Then when you're through toying with your map and changing the things that you want, you can just go up and insert map, and that will drop it right into your infographic. And you can still highlight things. You can add captions to population, so on. Let's go down one more. So you can see that only this square has the graph paper background. This one does not. So I could make this a different background. I will do something subtle. You can also change your opacity too. So if you wanted it to be blue stripes but not too bright, you can make them fairly light. I'm going to delete this. And for this square, I'm going to add a chart. So go back to Tools and go to Charts. And I could pick which version I want, if I want a pie chart or a bar chart. And I could say how we spend our time in class. And I could say reading. And I just went ahead and added in a couple different categories. So I could say 10% on reading, 10% on math, 15% on social studies, 20% on English, 10% on science. And just to make it an even 100, I just spent 35% on art. You can also import your data if you've got an Excel sheet that you're playing with. And then just go up here and insert your chart. And you can change the background so it's easier to read. You can also add labels to these if you like. And then you can also add videos if you've got one that you'd like to import for your work. And then if you've got things like your own logo that you'd like to use, you can go to Uploads and upload your own images or files. Just drag them right in, and you can go ahead and include logos, size them the way that you need them to be, and use those as your own images. So as you're walking through your steps, you might have a couple of different sections that you're working on. You can always go to Preview, and that will show you the whole overall picture of what you're working with, see where you need to add, exit the preview, and then this saves automatically and just saves it in your online file. And then as you go to download it, you can just save it as a JPEG or a PNG, and if you want to level up, you can, but this is the best way to just save it as a picture. So those are the main ways of using Piktochart. Just to show a couple last examples, this is the example of a comparison chart where a teacher has compared London to Paris. And you can see where they've divided it down the middle to show comparisons along the way, how these two countries are different. These two cities are different. But there really are a lot of different ways to use this tool, and I think that it makes documents look really good and in high color. So play around with it and see what you think.